Coughlin. And Charles Morris. Is that Morris? You're holding.
I had I got told.
Yeah, you've got, with all of these county items still married, it's tough to figure out.
Well, usually those changes
happen, it's a family item.
Well, I think that was
Yeah, okay, okay, nice to meet you.
At South Street. South of South No. Webster, south of South Street.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's work.
You need to think about that. You could start something up.
That's what I. You never know. Trust me. Morse.
I would say, Mr. Charles Morse. Or just say Mr. and Mrs. Charles Morse.
Okay, I can do it.
Yeah, tell us when you're ready.
No.
What's your record, Pat?
2 minutes.
We good. Welcome to the City Council meeting of Spring Hill for October 14th at 7 o'clock. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please? Or no, call to order. Invocation. I jumped ahead.
We stand before you, Holy Spirit, conscious of our sinfulness, but aware that we gather in your name. Come to us, remain with us, and enlighten our hearts. Give us light and strength to know your will, to make it our own, and to live it in our lives. Guide us by your wisdom, support us by your power, for you are God, sharing the glory of our Father and Son. You desire justice for all, enable us to uphold the rights of others. Do not allow us to be misled by ignorance or corrupted by fear or favor. Unite us to yourself in the bond of love and keep us faithful to all that is true. As we gather in your name, may we temper with justice, with love, so that all our decisions and reflections may be pleasing to you and earn the reward promised to good and faithful servants. We ask this of you who live and reign in the Father and the Son, one God, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, now you can call the roll.
Thank you. Mr. Leeton?
Here.
Mr. Owen?
Here.
Mr. Graves? Mr. Eckert?
Here.
Mrs. Roth?
Here.
President Owen, we have a quorum present.
Thank you. On the approval of the agenda, I have one movement. We're going to move item 5 to formal. Any other changes or deletions? No. So, a motion.
Move to approve the agenda as revised.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It'd be 4-0-0. Now it's time for citizen participation. We have 3 people signed up. Charles Morris, we'll call you up when we get to that item. Okay? So the first one would be Steve Boswell.
Hey, guys. Thank you for giving me a second here of your time. I was coming in to question about coding of the code, or basically the follow-through with the codes. I've had a lot of complaints from people about property being taken, no way to retrieve it or get it back. Especially one person in general, or in specific, had a very messy property, and yes, I notified the acting city administrator that I would be helping. There was extreme circumstances, and that I was going to help them to clean up that property. But lo and behold, 2 days later, or maybe 3, it was a few days later after that, the city codes enforcement officer came by and just decided that they were going to pick up a whole bunch of stuff, including a $1,500 air over hydraulic lift, a large 220 air compressor, multiple tools, kids' bicycles, basketballs, and then they proceeded to go in behind a privacy fence that is fenced off and cannot see from the street nor the sidewalk, and proceeded to take a collector's edition 250R three-wheeler that had a factory conversion to a four-wheeler kit, children's Kimco four-wheeler, as well as a big tire Yamaha kids dirt bike. Yet they left the trash behind. The whole purpose for them coming was supposedly they had a deal worked out with somebody who no longer lived at the property. And the deal, and I'm not sure what the deal was. All I know is that the property owner was not informed. And nonetheless, they still, even if you discount what they took out of the driveway, they still went above and beyond and took things out of the backyard. Very expensive things. Everything was cherry-picked. And so we tried to find out where we go to collect our vehicles and stuff and such forth. Apparently, the city has hired somebody to remove this stuff who subcontracted it out to another company called 1-800-GOT-JUNK. There was no hold. We don't know where those vehicles or equipment is, and we had no opportunity to retrieve it. So I'm asking, as this council presses forward towards a cleaner Spring Hill, is that the agenda? Is that how it's supposed to operate? Or if you take somebody's property or vehicles, don't you have to allow them at least 30 days or notification of where it's impounded so that they can go get it? Perhaps. I'm asking questions because I really don't know.
Okay. Mr. Burton, maybe you and Mr. Jenkins can set up a time to meet with Mr. Boswell? Okay? And we'll start from there.
I appreciate that. And the sad thing is after I wish there was more communication. I understand Mr. Burton has a lot on his plate because he's taking over 2 jobs, and I admire him for taking on that much work. I really do. But communication from the codes enforcement officer to the who's enacting and in charge should have taken place and didn't. And that would have saved insult to injury because this was a serious case of domestic violence that ended up and resulted in a family being terrified. And then for the city to come days later, take children's bicycles, and basketballs, and then leave trash behind and hazardous materials. You know, the whole purpose for the abatement is to clean it all up, as far as I am understanding in the ruling. And
Mr. Burton and Mr. Jenkins can discuss it with you and see what resolution they can come to.
okay, because we would like to get the equipment back.
Okay. Understand. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is it Jennifer Kunfell? Gunfall, okay. If you can state your address, name and address for the record.
I'm Jennifer Soufal, Coufal, 508 South Main Street here in Spring Hill,
Okay,
Kansas.
thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I'm the person that Steve was just talking about.
Okay.
The domestic violence charges that had happened. And then on Monday, September 27th, Spring Hill Code personnel showed at my house at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, said that he had given us notice and he was taking everything from my front driveway. I had no notice, I had no paperwork, I had not received a phone call, email, text, nothing. He said he had notified the homeowner. I am the homeowner.
Okay,
The person he had contacted prior to that no longer lives at the address. His name is Michael. And I just felt bullied. He never gave me a chance to clean it up. I asked for some time. He said, no, his exact words were, I don't care. That's not my problem. And I called my best friend as a witness, and she came, and he said, if you can pick up whatever you can as fast as you can keep it. So we had two females trying to drag lawnmowers, snow blowers into the backyard, and I was sick. I had PTSD still from the situation, and I just felt like you kicked me more when I was down.
okay.
And I do want to know where my stuff is at, please. Get a chance to get some of it back at least. And honestly, I had started the divorce process with Michael, and my lawyer said that we cannot get rid of anything in the house, assets, nothing, until the divorce is either finalized or in the process of.
Well, that sounds like she's gonna be the better person to talk to since it's her property for you and Mr. Jenkins. Okay,
Okay,
start there for you.
all right. Thank you so much for listening to me tonight.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, that takes us on to the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
400. That takes us to our first formal item, which is the number 5, consider the tort claim.
Good evening. There was a tort claim filed against the city on tire damage due to the street construction was what it was said to be. The person in September this year claimed that there was no indication and there was no indication on the street. She was driving north on Webster, just left Casey's when she heard a noise, discovered that her tire was going flat. Said the tire was not able to be patched and therefore a new tire had to be purchased and put on. They did send in 2 receipts for 2 tires at the request of $351.39. An employee had witnessed the claimant's flat tire. The claimant drove back from Casey's back to Casey's for the air. Per the employee's account, there was something in the tread of the tire that resembled a nail, not exactly sure. O'Reilly Company was contacted, the expert information, and the information was given to them, and it did not show any degree of being able to be settled by a tort claim. The due diligence was done by the staff, the accounting, as well as the insurance company. The possibility options are to approve the claim, and for the city to pay direct, or deny the claim, or request more information, or deny the claim. So legal has looked at it, and staff recommends to the governing body to deny the claimant's tort claim.
Any questions or comments?
Was there any detail on the receipt provided by the individual regarding the reason it could not be repaired?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And there was 2 tires put on it when there was just witness to 1 tire.
The only reason I ask is if it was due to the failure of this said object,
Sure.
or if it was because it was too low on tread and couldn't be repaired. That's the big
Right,
difference.
or, sidewall weak or something, you're sure.
Exactly.
But there was no detail, and, it's just,
Okay.
The only items you have are 2 submissions of receipts, no photos, no
It w-
statements.
well, there was a statement given by the claimant, but there was an employee, a city employee that just happened to be there. But, it looked like a nail possibly, there was just no way to prove. And then in looking at the overall job there, we've had no other complaints. We've seen no other metal objects or anything caused from the milling of the concrete on that job.
Are we using a lot of nails? I mean, what?
No.
Is there a lot of nails being used?
No, ma'am. And that's just a risk factor anyway, honestly. And the reason that we asked Mr. Owen is because we didn't want any wires crossed in saying, we approve the consent agenda and this might be construed as being approved. So that's why we took it off consent agenda. So,
Move to deny the claimant's tort claim.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
4-0-0. That brings us to consider approval of appropriation order 2021-10-14. Any discussion?
Nope. Move
We'll
to,
vote by roll.
well, we haven't had a motion. So.
That's true. Gotta make a motion.
Move to approve the appropriation order 2021-10-14.
Second?
And Madam Clerk will vote by roll.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Wheaton,
Yes.
sorry, Mr. Eckert,
Yes.
Mrs. Roth,
I approve appropriation order number 2021-10-14, accepting that I partially abstained from voting on invoices pertaining to J&T Auto Service.
motion passes 4-0.
All right. Mr. Burton, it looks like you again. Consider acceptance of annexation petition.
Yes, thank you again. The first is just an acceptance of the annexation petition by Thomas J. Bame, I believe is how it's pronounced, and Amy Bame, irrevocable trust. And this is just the petition, and it is contiguous with the city's existing city limits.
Okay. And we do have one person who has to comment on it. Is it this one you want to comment on? Okay.
I don't have cooties, but I'll wipe it down anyway.
I've had COVID and I'm vaccinated.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, thanks. So my name is Charles Morse,
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Morse. My property is at 18460 South Ridgeview. So my property shares a 20-acre border with this property that you guys are considering for annexation. And with me are 3 of my neighbors who, so we just learned about this. We got a letter in the mail from the Planning Commission about a rezoning of this property, which surprised me, and I thought, well, the property's not a part of Spring Hill, and so then I looked on your website and I saw that this was on the agenda. And then I looked on the notes from last week, it looks like this is a second vote related to this, but obviously you don't need to notify us, but the reason I'm here is just wanted to go on the record to kind of share with you our concerns about this annexation. And the reality is that you're annexing my property too through this action, because my understanding from the letter from the Planning Commission is that they're seeking to rezone this to single-family homes, multifamily homes, and, you know, that is going to irrevocably, permanently change the character, you know, of our neighborhood, and certainly my property. So I probably will take about 10 minutes of your time if you guys will indulge me, because this vote is going to affect, you know, our lives really forever, potentially. So I appreciate that. But so how many of you are familiar with the Inser Farm to the north and west of this property? It's off of 183rd Street, the Inser Museum. Yeah, it's not a popular attraction.
Is it the white farmhouse?
Yeah, it's the white farmhouse. Okay, so.
I'm familiar where it's.
Okay, so I border the Inser Farm to the east. My house, if you go up Ridgeview, just before you get to the little bridge and then you get to 183rd Street, I'm the two-story colonial house on the left. It's a blue, older home, built in 1975 by a Johnson County Circuit Court judge named Charles Elliott. But the Inser Farm, the 80 acres to the south, which you guys are considering for annexation, that was originally a part of the Inser Farm and the Inser property. And my understanding from the old timers around, and I'm just sharing this story with you so you can understand the history and the character of the area. But the Loretta Inser, and Marshall Inser, of course, was a famous Olathe citizen, but Loretta, his sister, her desire before she passed away in 1991 was for her property to become a museum. And so initially, and this is on their website, initially she deeded the property to Johnson County. She wasn't satisfied with how they were being a steward of her property, and she was concerned that it wouldn't be preserved. And so, as the story goes, she sold the 80 acres next to me, which was a part of that property, to a farmer, Ralph Boehm, for $1. And I believe it to be a true story, because I've had more than 2 old-timers tell me that story, and I think it's a neat story. And he had been leasing that property for farming, but she didn't trust the county to not develop it or not do something with it. And so, for the past, 35 years, that property has been farmland. And my house was built in 1975 by the judge, and he put it 55 feet from the property line, which is really not a good location if you think that that property is going to be developed. But obviously, I think knowing the history of the Inser Farm, he probably assumed that it would never be developed, and this home would always be rural, and this property would always stay the same, because the reason you have an endowment and a trust for a museum is that you want it to be preserved for future generations. And so Ralph passed away a couple years ago, and so this is his 2 children who are selling this property for $1.7 million. And the son lives comfortably outside of the city limits on a couple hundred acres, and so this won't affect him in any way. He gets to enjoy his rural life, his peace and quiet. And, our concern as residents along Ridgeview is that, what attracted us to buy property and homes in our area is some of what probably is the same motivation for those of you who live in the Spring Hill city limits, which is we like small towns, we like a rural life, we like the country lifestyle. And if that property is annexed by the city, obviously it's going to change the character of our life and our, our community significantly and permanently, which is a huge concern because, I've lived there for 11 years. I've lived in Johnson County my entire life, for better or worse. And, my plan is to live where I live until I die, and I'm so grateful and blessed by the neighbors that I have. This, is basically, someone who inherited the property, who's selling it and to the highest bidder, and then kind of dropping the keys and not worrying about the impact to the people who are going to stay behind. And the developer who is going to develop this property is, it's owned by Berkshire Hathaway. So basically this action is making a wealthy landowner wealthier, and it's making the world's richest man, or second or third, Warren Buffett, a little more money in his pocket. So I'll talk about just a couple of things, but I definitely feel, the reason I feel like I'm being annexed is primarily because of the proximity of my home to that property line. So I wish I had pictures and things, but my backyard would basically be in other backyards. So I'm suddenly now going to be living, in a neighborhood of homes which, arguably, especially if there's duplexes, may not be as nice, as the surrounding homes and the properties that exist today. And I do think this sets us up for conflict because, you know, and you guys are well aware of this in you know, where you have the county rules versus the city rules. And so there are things about county life that are attractive to us, which is why we moved there. So we like to ride, we like to hunt, we like to shoot, we like to, you know, operate machinery and equipment and tractors. And I have a really bad habit, as the Greens know, of mowing late at night. It's just, you know, something, they give me heck about it sometimes, but it's a privilege, you know, of living in the county and not being in the city to be able to do those things. And so it's not a big stretch to me to imagine that, you know, if that land is developed with densely packed single-family homes and duplexes, you know, that's setting us up for conflict. And so that's going to create a burden on the city for public, you know, law enforcement and public safety, because it's inevitable that you were going to be shooting. And, you know, and I understand, I would call too. If, you know, I'm in my home, my new house, and I hear gunfire, what's going on? You know, and so that's going to happen. And the other thing is, you know, every person who I've known in my life who's bought a new house in a neighborhood next to farmland, that farmland becomes their playground. It's just inevitable, which is it's right over the fence. And so I'm going to take my kid with their four-wheeler and we're going to go use this because it's right here and I don't see anyone around. So, you know, why not? And so I'm definitely going to be turned into the grumpy old man who's going to post the no trespassing signs, and I'm going to get super cross when I find people trespassing. And that's not really my personality, but, you know, I share everything with friends and family. But, you know, if somebody is trespassing who I don't know, that's a different story. And so to me, it's not a big stretch to imagine that that's going to be a part of my future, dealing with, you know, people trespassing and light pollution, noise pollution. But I think one of our biggest concerns is going to be the traffic that's going to be created. So my understanding is that they have about 300 homes in the current development, 200 to 300, which is the neighborhood that's currently being developed off of 191st Street. This would connect to that with an additional 200 to 300 homes. So now you've got potentially 500 to 600 homes with how many cars per house? You know, let's call it 1.5 or 2. Now you're talking 1,000 cars now dumping out onto Ridgeview from 2 new entrances, you know. And, you know, again, me reading on your website is the first I've heard of this. So I have no idea what due diligence has been done by the council to make sure that the infrastructure, that the road can support that level of traffic. And I joke that, you know, I already feel like I'm playing Frogger when I try to check my mail across the road today. And that's just from the schools and the neighborhoods to the south. You know, there's been a lot of additional traffic in the last 11 years that I've lived there. And so I think this type of development would just take it to a whole nother level. And so I just ask that you guys consider the character of the community, the impact to that community, and whether it's consistent with, you know, the surrounding properties and homes. And you know, if you go there and you look around, you talk to us, you know, it's not. I mean, it's not at all consistent. And so it will definitely have a very permanent and, you know, irrevocable effect on our quality of life and on the value of our properties as well. So I just wanted to go on the record with that, and I encourage you to, you know, carefully consider it or even consider deferring it. Because again, maybe all of the groundwork has been done. I have no idea, but I think there's a lot of legitimate concerns for traffic, for sewer, for runoff. My property is downhill of that property, so, and it feeds, there's a creek on my property that feeds into Wolf Creek, and so, you know, I don't know what the impact of that will be, but I'm sure there will be some. I think that's all I have to say.
All right.
Did you talk about, you got some information from the planning commission about this?
I got a letter that said there is a hearing on November 4th to consider the rezoning of the property. And I don't have a copy with me, but the two, it was going from some sort of a Spring Hill rural. So mine is zoned rural, like county rural. So it was the equivalent of that, which is how it's zoned today is county rural, to like, it said single family and multifamily homes or zoning.
Mr. Burton, would you have more information on this property? Okay. Share with us and, yes, please. We just had one. Does somebody else want to come up and say something?
I think he said it all.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you guys.
So information on this property is that it does connect to Wolf Creek, or it connects to Foxwood Ridge, I'm sorry, or Foxwood Ranch, yes. So, yes, it is being planned there'll be approximately another 300 homes in there. Summit Homes, which is a Brookshire Hathaway, they're one of the largest builders in the country. They do an excellent job on anything that is asked of them. The area, there's a study already, we already have traffic impact studies, which we struggle with that right now, that corner. And if you remember, when we went to work on that because of the school district, the county, it was three sides county, and the county said, well, once you annex it, you guys can do what you want. But what we are doing now is a study with them. We are getting ready to make improvements on Ridgeview right now. That will be coming before you guys shortly. And then we are also looking in conjunction with the county to improve Ridgeview to 175th, basically.
This property is going to extend to the north.
That's correct. And all the way to Ridgeview.
Is it going to have access to Ridgeview?
That's correct, it will.
Is there an easement on the north side of the property that will exit to Ridgeview?
No, they're gonna get all the property all the way to Ridgeview.
So Ridgeview runs north and south.
That's
This
correct.
property is going to the north, which would be parallel to Ridgeview. Is it also going to the east?
That's correct, all the way to Ridgeview to the east.
I understand.
So there will be a traffic that was able to come off of 191st through existing Foxwood, and then it would go up and tie into Ridgeview.
Okay.
And that intersection, we're working with them as well right now to improve it more, along with the school district.
Tell me a little bit about what the planning commission, how they voted and things of that nature.
Sure, so the planning commission, the notifications were sent out for the rezoning. We have to do that, in advance and all. In looking at it from the beginning, what we did is an informal discussion on it, and planning commission is in favor of it.
So it was
There was no formal vote, you can't until it's in the city. But we always I think we spent an hour last planning commission meeting on upcoming developments and building construction and all.
I know the thing.
And they do they have concerns, just like all of us, with traffic, on the traffic study, and this is part of the excise tax that will be paid in improving the roads and all.
I think the one thing I lean to is property rights. Every person has a right to sell their property. I'm not somebody that likes to get in the way of that myself,
That's correct.
if we're meeting all the traffic requirements.
So what is the comprehensive use plan designate this for? Because it's kind of a broad.
Right, that's correct. It's a mixed-use residential area.
So the proposed potential use by the developer would fall into the proposed, or to the comprehensive use plan
That is correct. It's mixed.
adopted by the city. And
Yes.
so the use and everything is in alignment.
And it's in alignment with the counties as well.
So,
Their long-term use area for growth.
okay.
Now, obviously, we're in that's our growth area, and it also goes over with the county, and the county shows that as a residential type use.
So we're just simply talking about an annexation tonight, and an annexation
That's correct.
petition and such. How the land would be used and et cetera, that will be coming up for the rezoning.
November.
And then down the road, as that proceeds, will be traffic studies.
There is
Similar like
right now.
what we did with the
Yes.
Spring Hill School District.
That's
with the
correct.
middle school and adding a turn lane, such. So there will be additional avenues
Right.
down the road to be
Yes,
discussed.
and the traffic study and it's not gonna all be built at once, but the traffic studies that have been provided so far, we also do full stormwater drainage studies and all that. The traffic studies that we've looked at so far, obviously everything increases traffic, but it's not quite even comparable to the middle school.
Anything else?
And we still have a lot of public hearings to go on this, and we welcome everyone to attend, all parties to attend, the planning commission meetings.
Okay.
They're all listed on the website, what's gonna be and everything, that's correct.
Which are held on the second, first and third Thursdays of the month?
Just the first Thursday.
First Thursday.
That's correct.
Planning Commission.
Can I get a motion?
Move to accept the annexation petition A 00044-2021 for Sharon and Jeffrey Giometti and Thomas J. Boehm, Amy A. Boehm Revocable Trust in substantial form pending engineering review by Lamp Ryerson.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
4-0-0. Item 8, Mr.
Thank you, and this is the actual annexation ordinance, which is 44-2021. All information is the same, and this is the actual ordinance.
Move to approve annexation ordinance 2021 dash, what is the number?
44.
44?
No, 12,
12.
That seemed high.
yes.
That's right.
I was gonna say, I didn't think we had gotten that high yet.
No,
Move to approve annexation ordinance 2021-12 in substantial form pending engineering review by Lamp Ryerson.
Second.
Discussion? And this will be a roll call?
Miss,
Yes, sir.
May I just comment that, section 2 of that ordinance, it also has a provision regarding subject to the annexation statute that makes the publication effective, after the November 2nd, election.
Okay.
Move to revise the motion as stated by the city attorney.
Can't revise it. It's already been motioned and approved. You can amend it.
Or amend, that's the same
why do we
thing.
have to do that? The annexation wouldn't have to.
Let's just for clean, let's
Any
just start over.
annexation
Yeah.
ordinance will not be effective until after the upcoming election, November 2nd, because it's within 30 days.
I see.
of adoption. So just to amend, let the record reflect that should be added, intermediation to section 2.
What is that? Section 2?
Section 2 of the ordinance will include a provision stating that the ordinance effective date is subject to the annexation statute.
You got that?
Move to amend the annexation ordinance 2021-12 as stated by the city attorney in substantial form pending engineering review by Lamp Ryerson.
Second.
And that's a roll call.
We'll
Madam
vote
Clerk,
on, as
is
an
it a roll
ordinance?
call?
It's still,
Still
Is it
roll
an
call.
ordinance we're doing, or
yes,
just
Yeah.
as the
we're
amendment?
just amending that section 2 of the ordinance.
Okay.
Mrs. Roth,
Yes.
Mr. Leeton,
Yes.
Mr. Eckert,
Yes.
Mr. Owen.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0-0.
All right, number 9, it's you again, Mr. Burke.
Sure. So this is another annexation of property that is contiguous to the city. And all of our annexations and ordinances and all, we would have waited, but it is subject to state statute, so. This is an acceptance from petition from L&J Development LLC for the property located at 20175 Woodland Road. It was received by the planning department. This is a 5.68 acre. It's approximately at 199th and Woodland. As you come down the curve, it's the old white house that sits right there on the east side of the road. It backs up to Woodland Crossings, and at this point, there will be, just so you know, the property's already starting to be cleaned up, and we'll have some plans come in before too long with some rezonings. Staff recommends accepting the petition.
Move to accept annexation petition A-00040-2021 in substantial form pending engineering review by Lamp Ryerson.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
400. And the next one, Mr. Burton?
Sure, this is the actual ordinance, which is 2021-13 for the same property owned by L&J Development LLC located at 20175 Woodland Road. Staff recommends adoption of the ordinance in accordance to state statutes.
Do we need to make the same stipulation on this one?
Yes.
Yes.
Please state that and I will add for simplicity,
Sure.
please.
You can read my writing.
And subject to, no, I can't read your writing. That's probably me.
Subject to the effective date pursuant to the annexation statute. Apologize. Subject to the effective.
Okay, I can do that.
Frank, I'll just leave my folder up here.
Move to approve annexation ordinance 2021-13 in substantial form pending engineering review by Lamp Ryerson and subject to the effective date pursuant to the
Annexation statute.
annexation statute. I almost had it all.
Second.
Here's stuff on it.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Eckert,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mrs. Roth,
Yes?
Mr. Leeton.
Yes.
Motion passes 400.
And we got one more, Mr. Jenkins.
If I may defer to the city engineer for this presentation.
Sure.
Good evening, members of the council. Dan Miller, city engineer. I come before you this evening for annexation ordinance number, I don't know if I got the number 2021-14, annexing street right-of-way of 199th Street and Ridgeview Road in connection with the recently completed roundabout project. The issue is the annexation of right-of-way out there, which is fairly confusing right now. As you know, the roundabout improvement project had some existing right-of-way that was in Johnson County, actually most of it. We also acquired some additional right-of-way in the name of Johnson County to build the project. So we're proposing to annex all of the right-of-way within the roundabout proper and for a few hundred feet in either direction so that everything within the roundabout, the existing city limits, is within Spring Hill. The purpose of this is to make both street maintenance, roundabout maintenance, and law enforcement simpler out there so that it's all under the jurisdiction essentially of Spring Hill. I do have two exhibits, Exhibit A and Exhibit B, that depict the location of the right-of-ways along 199th Street and Ridgeview Road, both the pre-existing right-of-way and the small triangles that we took with the roundabout project. We didn't really take that much extra right-of-way. Those exhibits are attached to the draft ordinance 2021-14. And the city has the authority to annex the right-of-way pursuant to KSA 12520E. As the city attorney has mentioned, the annexation will be effective after the election on November 3rd, 2021, pursuant to KSA 12523, which provides that any ordinance adopted within 30 days before an election shall become effective the following day of the election. The alternatives are either a motion to approve ordinance 2021-14, annexing street right-of-way of 199th Street and Ridgeview, or to table the matter. There is no budgetary impact, and our recommendation is approval of the ordinance. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
I do not.
Move to approve annexation ordinance 2021-14.
Second.
And that is roll call?
Mr. Owen?
Yes.
Mrs. Roth?
Yes?
Mr. Leeton?
Yes.
Mr. Eckert?
Yes.
Motion passes 400.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mrs. Armstrong, are you taking the next one? And I have a question for you, when you're ready.
Thank you. You have a question?
I have a question. Consider authorization of temporary transfer of excise tax funds.
Temporary meaning
Mm-hmm.
that this is a transfer of funds and it will be paid back. It will be reimbursed. The council did authorize the 199th and Ridgeview Roundabout project for $1,565,130. So CARS project will pay $514,000, and the city will end up paying $1,051,130. So due to the timing, our project fund will be short while we're anticipating or waiting for the reimbursement for the CARS project. So I did call it temporary because it's not a permanent move from.
Did we miss something?
I don't think we missed anything. We did take out a temporary loan.
Yes.
We did temporarily finance it, but we only financed it for the city's portion. We did not finance it for the portion that we will be reimbursed by.
Mr. Burton, did you have something to say? Sorry.
No, I just wanted to make it clear that although it was maybe not missed, it was the previous finance director failed to finance the entire project. Usually what we like to do, we finance the entire project, and then when the monies come in from CARS, then we just don't borrow that much and, pay that temporary note off or back those funds. So in this case, only the city side was financed, and in the timing of CARS, we will be short through that 60-day period that sometimes it takes for CARS to reimburse us. So really all we're doing is we're just borrowing from ourselves and paying it back instead of having it in a temporary note.
Okay, all right.
We'll try not to, or we will not take that type of actions any longer. It's easier for accounting purposes and tracking and all that. We don't like to go back and forth.
Very good.
I do have one thing to add.
Yes.
We do submit the invoices as they are paid. We did submit invoice number 1, and we did receive reimbursement. So I will be adjusting the amount that I'm requesting to transfer. It was previously $514,000, and it's now $380,769,000 is what we will be asking to transfer.
381?
380,769.
769.
We'd like to not to exceed like 390. Good deal.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, here's the reason that I went with that odd number is as the payments come in from CARS, I will just deposit those payments back into the excise tax fund, and that will avoid transfers back and forth, if that's agreeable.
Okay. Any other questions? Can I get a motion?
Move to authorize for a temporary transfer of $380,769 from the excise tax fund to the 199th and Ridgeview Roundabout project.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
400. Thank you, Mrs. Armstrong. That brings us to announcements and reports. I have none. Mr. Leeden.
I don't have any right now.
Mr. Eckert.
Nothing tonight, sir. Thank you.
Mrs. Roth.
This morning's State of the District was really cool. Always
Was good.
Yeah, always cool to see what's going on in kids' lives. I have 2 kids, and so seeing what's going on over there at our, I'll say, partners at the school district is really awesome. So if you have a chance to learn or hear about what's going on over there, I encourage you. I also wanted to thank Mr. Messer because that project, Webster, is getting close. And without asking, I have not been hounding him, I promise, and he's been very kind to keep me in the loop and updated. I know a lot of other businesses that are right there and are affected by that. I appreciate that, so thank you for that. And that's all I had.
Mr. Burton?
Thank you. A couple of things, just as to clean up a few comments. Staff will also inform council as to when those transfers or this reimbursement back into excise tax. And we will tell you when it's all in, just to make sure that, keep us straightened, and you guys will know also.
All right.
Next meeting, there'll be some discussion on some activities that we'll be working on, but that will be next meeting, on water, sewer, and things of that nature. Other than that, I really don't have anything.
Okay. Mrs. Armstrong?
Very happy to report that we have filled our vacant accounting position. Natalie Talley has begun work the Monday before last. Last week we were in training, and this week we have started. Our first task is we are going to bring the financials up to date, so you should see some quick progress on that.
Sounds good.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
No report, thank you.
Mr. Messer?
Just a quick update on Webster. There is one glitch that's been happening, and that was we were waiting for a crack seal. Has anyone noticed when it went through and did the recycle of it, it ripped out some of the rubber board, and we're gonna have to go back with a crack seal to fill that so the UBAS won't fall in there. But from what I understand, we'll get a timetable tomorrow probably of when they're gonna do that, which most likely be the middle of next week, and then the following week, or maybe the end of next week, depending on how quick they get in here, they'll do the UBAS and finish that.
Okay, good.
That's all I had.
Chief?
That's okay. I just wanted to let you know that Monday we had Franco Gutierrez start. It was his first day with us. He comes with 4 years' experience from parks. So we're excited about that. He'll start the field training program on Saturday. We also still have our 2 trainees in field training. They're doing well, and they are set to go solo mid-December. So we're still looking to fill our vacant captain's position, and we have a candidate in a background phase for our last officer position. So if that works out, we'll have all officer positions filled by the end of November. So that'll be good.
Very good. Very good, thank you. Mr. Jenkins?
No report.
All right.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.